Okay, good morning all. And thank you for attending today's PennTESOL East Second Saturday Seminar. I'm Rosanna, a colleague of Bill at Drexel ELC, and I'm happy to be moderating today's session. Today we're hosting a panel discussion on the pros and cons of sheltered ESL learning in grades K through 12. A quick reminder about conference registration for PennTESOL East. The conference will be held on May 4th, but early bird registration ends by April 21st. So hopefully you could get it, get your registration in there on time, and hope to see you at that conference, May 4th. So as far as our discussion today, we are honored to be joined by our panel members. First, we have Holli Goldenberg. She is a multilingual manager with the Philadelphia School District and a board member of PennTESOL East. Happily joined by Sondra Gonzalez, who is an ESL teacher at the Robert Pollock Elementary School in the Philadelphia School District. And we're looking forward to having some great insight from two students, former ESL students with the Philadelphia School District, Alaha Abdul Faruq and Fadi Kharban. So before we get into the panel discussion, I would like to give Alaha and Fadi a chance to tell us a bit more about themselves and their background. So Alaha, we will start with you. And just tell us a little bit about what is your focus of study now, and a little bit about where you're from and how was the experience for you in the ESL classroom?
Hi guys, my name is Alaha Abdul Faruq. I am from Afghanistan originally. I was born there. And then when I was, I think like a toddler, we moved to Russia and spent about 8 years there. And then at the end of 2009, we came here, or sorry, at the beginning of 2009, we came to the United States, to Philadelphia, and we've stayed here ever since. I started off ESL in the 5th grade and finished it in the 6th grade. So I was there for about 2 years. And currently I'm a medical student at PCOM.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we're going to hear more about you. That's wonderful. And what languages do you speak? Right?
So I speak Dari, which is from Afghanistan, and Russian, and then English as well.
Great. I'll look forward to hearing about your story. Next, we'll have Fadi Kharban. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and where you're
Hello.
from. Hi.
Yeah, sure. Hi, good morning, everyone. To all of you who don't know me, my name is Fadi. I was a student at Northeast High. And so I am currently a Drexel student in undergrad. I am studying biology on a pre-med track with a biochem minor and a Middle Eastern Studies minor. Um, I came to the US when I was around 13 years of age. And that was after living in Jordan for 4 years. And when my family left Syria, I was around 9. So yeah.
Wow. We look forward to hearing your insight into what the experience was for you here in the Philadelphia School District. So, with that, I would like to hand things over to Holli to start some panel discussion and tell us more about yourself, Holli, and we will begin.
Good morning, everyone. I am Holli Goldenberg. I'm a multilingual manager within the School District of Philadelphia. Just a little background, I essentially oversee the English as a Second Language program at 30 different schools within the city. And my location concentrations are in South Philadelphia and West Philadelphia currently. But prior to that, I was an English as a second language teacher at Woodrow Wilson Middle School, which is the middle school that feeds into Northeast High School. I didn't have either of our panelists, but very cool to see some products of Wilson on the panel today. And I'm really excited to be here and to discuss with all of you the state of education and see what we're thinking about.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Holly. Sondra, can you tell us some more about yourself?
Yes,
And
hi.
Hi,
Um, I am an ESOL teacher at the Pollock School. My concentration is middle years, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade students, which is my passion and my love. Um, Prior to that, I was an elementary school teacher for many years, and I've even worked as a drama teacher in the district.
wow, that's fantastic. Uh,
Mhm.
okay, great. So let us begin. So I want to see if anyone had any questions, but I'll start with a couple. If anyone, oh, thanks, Bill. If anyone feel free to enter any questions you may have or raise your hands. Um, as far as in your opinion, does integrated classroom teaching have a positive effect on the self-confidence and the ability for the students to handle challenges and social relationships of the English learner students beyond the academic classroom improvements? What do you feel? How do you feel about that? Like, do you feel the integrated classroom has been a positive effect, had a positive effect on the students? And what is your experience with that now? What do you see?
I can start
Yeah.
if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So I would absolutely say that the integrated classroom has a positive effect on students. I think it's important to have a balance depending on the student's level, where they're coming from, and their prior experiences. So right now in the district for grades K-2, those students only receive push-in services from ELD English language development teachers. 3 to 5, just to give a quick frame of reference. Grades 3 to 5, students who are level 1 will get pulled out. It typically ends up being for 45 minutes a day during their English language arts period with an English language development teacher. And then students 6 to 8 will also be pulled out. Levels 1 and sometimes level 2 students will be pulled out. It ends up being about 45 minutes. Some schools are able to do the full 90-minute English language arts block. And then the high school setting is different, where there are sheltered classrooms. So the schools I work with are K-8, and that's mostly what I will be speaking about. But definitely, I'm sure the students can give some insight on their experience being a student in sheltered classrooms when they were at Northeast, if that was their experience. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll find out. But I just wanted to give you a little background. So I think the way that we do it within the district now is really helpful. Classes are integrated most of the time. So students are all together in classrooms, mixed with English learners and non-English learners. And then depending on their level and grade level, they'll be pulled out for usually 45 minutes. So they're not being super separated when they're in grades 3 through 8. And I think it's really good for them to be in an integrated classroom, and to be able to learn from each other, to be able to be learning the same content at the same time that their peers are learning specific content. And I do think that having that time where they're getting pulled out and targeted instruction, especially for newcomers, is beneficial to them. But I think a balance like this is really important.
Yeah, that's great. Sondra. Hi, Sondra. What is your take on this? How do you feel your students are positive effects in the classroom that you see in an integrated classroom?
I think there are a lot of positive effects of them being in an integrated classroom. I do my pullouts for my lower level students, and I have to say they enjoy being pulled out. They enjoy that 45 minutes of, I guess, feeling heard and getting more attention, making more targeted relationships so they can really help each other, even if they don't speak the same language. Because I have so many different languages in my class, it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, people, I think they just respect the idea that they are all in the same place, so to speak, learning from each other, making relationships. I see them sneaking talkies with people they don't speak the same language. I'm like really cool with that. I'm like, oh, good, they're making relationships. So, and then when they go back in the class, like I've already helped them with information that they can help them in their regular class. They go back in, I go back in with them to support the curriculum after our pullout, and people seem to enjoy that. So I like that model a lot.
Okay. Now, for the insight of the students, I would like to hear, let's start with Alaha. Alaha, based on what we're talking about, can you tell us a little bit how was that experience for you that you recall being in the ESL classroom in Philadelphia? What was that experience like for you, positive and negative? I would like to hear your honest insights, what the experience was like for you.
So like I mentioned, when I came here, I was placed in the 5th grade, and it was, I think, around February or March. So everyone already kind of had made friends with each other in the classroom. And then it was a little bit difficult to get dropped into a whole new country, a whole new language, and a whole new classroom in the middle of the year, especially. So it was very difficult to integrate myself with those friend groups. And then not knowing the language made it even worse. So when I think I also probably had the same model of being pulled out of the classroom. I don't know the exact details, but I think it was about 45 minutes or like a one like class hour. And that to me felt like a safe space. I really enjoyed not only being kind of there one-on-one with the ESL teacher, but also meeting other people who may be in the same situation. Like you mentioned, although we didn't speak the same language, it felt really comforting to know that I wasn't alone, because in my classroom specifically, I was the only ESL student at that time. So I honestly thought of it as like a safe space. I really enjoyed it, and it kind of gave me a boost of confidence when I do good on an ESL test, and I'd be like, okay, so like I can do this.
I love how you mentioned safe space. That's really key. Fadi, have you had a similar situation where you felt your ESL learning was a safe space?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it allowed me to just like connect with more people to like that are in like the same situation that I am. But I also would say that I did enjoy my integrated classes. It's because whatever we learned in like the ESOL classes, it allowed me to just go ahead and apply whatever we learned on like an actual situation. So that actually enhanced my learning in a way. But yeah.
Wow. Are there does anything stand out to you on a negative, in a negative way, in a negative aspect, anything that had happened or, that you want to share honestly that, that may have some insight into what maybe a bad day you had or something that was, troublesome for you, or was it mostly positive?
It was not mostly positive. You would imagine that like disconnect between the or the barrier that the language has put in. It's between like the English speakers and the non-speakers. There's like a lot of disconnect. And then it's just the miscommunication that happens. That was like the majority of the bad experience, because like you just don't know what's going on. You're like, what's going on? Like you just keep hearing voices that are not making sense, and you're like, I don't know, what am I doing?
Yeah. We have a question here from Leslie, and she asks, what kind of support did the ESL class provide for you that you didn't see in the integrated class when there was no push and support?
For that, I would say it's like actually like sitting with me and knowing what I was actually struggling with, and just like helping me to like take it down and like process it. But in the integrated class, it was just like expected that you would go with the pace as other students, and that one-on-one or like the interaction between the ESOL teacher and the student, like the English learner student, was not there.
Interesting. Okay. I just want to ask one more question of you as far as this thing. Was there anything in your experience as an ESL student and feel that helped you decide for your future study today? Was there anything that impacted your decision that you think came from being in that situation that helped decide maybe your future study or your interest or passions?
So my passions have been going with me since I was very little, and that's because of like my grandma. But I do definitely say that like it enhanced the way I looked at it. It just shifted my perspective. Um, and like it just allowed me to go further.
Right. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I agree with Fadi. I think that um my experience then, because I kind of had this like picking up and moving to a different country twice now. The first time I did it, I was really young, so I kind of grew into the language, and so did my parents. There was never an issue of me translating for them or anything like that. But this time around, when we came to the United States, I'm still their translator for a lot of things. I was literally like a 8-year-old kid translating like IRS documents, which I still don't understand. So, and I think that's a shared experience between all immigrant children, but it kind of helped me in like that background, and that experience that I've had has helped me be more open-minded to anyone else that I meet that may be in the same situation. I feel like it's so easy, especially if you're working in a really fast-paced environment, to get frustrated and just kind of not fully understand the story. And since I am in medical school and hope to be a doctor, that's not something that you can do because someone's health is, I think, the most precious thing they have. So I think that just allows me to kind of put myself back in that time for my future patients, take a step back, and then make sure to hear the full story and try to get as much support as I can if I don't speak the language. I mean, now we have Google Translate, which is so awesome. But if anything, I can call a translator and really like take a pause and understand.
Right. Wow, you got a lot out of it. This is great. We have a question from Amy Davis. She asked, do the students think it is better to get the needed supports in the main classroom or be pulled out to a different space?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
So I feel like this really depends on the student. I feel like if a student is like uncomfortable of being separated from their peers or their English speaking peers, that could lower their confidence in a way, and which could impact their learning. And that's what I'm saying, like it really depends on the student.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But also, I think the mix of integrated and mixed classrooms, or like separated and mixed classrooms, is really helpful because, like I said, for me, I think the best way to learn a language is to be just kind of like thrown into it because you have no other option but to learn. But also, at times it did get tough. So then having that 1 hour, however many times a week I went to those ESL classes to kind of like chill out and have that one-on-one connection with my teacher. And like I said, have that safe space was really, like, I think really enhanced my learning.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. I'm going to direct this one to Holly and Sondra. What should teachers and school staff know about ESL students that may improve and impact the ESL program and keep it heading in this right direction as we see through our students, like, to be successful? What do you think they should know more or take time to know more about the students that would improve how the program can succeed?
Well, I would say that teachers need to understand just because someone is an ESL student doesn't mean that they're all the same, that they've
Right.
had the same educational background, the same life experiences, to make blanket statements that, oh, I've had ESL students, why isn't this one performing? Just to make a relationship with your student get to know them, because there are particular ways that ESL students are compared, and the way that they are often comparing them is sometimes really not fair. So making that relationship is absolutely key.
Wow. Yeah, that's really important. Each person is unique in their situation and their background, where they're coming from.
Mhm.
Very good advice.
I
Holly?
absolutely agree with Sondra, and I would add that it's really important for teachers to keep a shared ownership mindset. So often in school settings I've been in, and now when I go into schools to coach teachers or give professional development, some teachers are like, oh, well, they're English learners, so their teacher will teach them, and they can just kind of hang out in my class. And that is not the mindset that we want them to have. We really want to make sure that we are viewing these students as all of our students, because they are. So collaboration is so important between the EL teacher and the content area teacher. And just we're all responsible for their success. So that's one thing that I think is really important to keep in mind. And then also an asset-based mindset. So these students coming in, just because they are not proficient in English doesn't mean that they don't bring a ton of awesome things into the classroom. Some of them, as you heard, Alaha spoke 2 languages when she came here. How many other students could say that? Probably very few. So it's just important to think like they are bringing their own experiences with language, with culture, with living in other countries, and to utilize that in the classroom. Make sure that students are given the space to share. Students are given the space to contribute to the class discussions, because they have a lot to contribute.
And enhance that learning. Yeah, that's a good
Absolutely.
point. We have a question here for the school staff from Parissa. And she asked, are there discussions about how to support ELs with the potential of social isolation or loneliness in integrated classes? She's thinking about Fadi's comments about hearing voices but not understanding what classmates are saying. That is from Parissa. Yeah, good question.
So they're not, I mean, we're always looking to improve the social emotional learning experience for students in schools, and I can absolutely see how that would be the case. I think the idea is that students are getting that connection, especially in high school. I'd be curious to know, I don't know, Alaha, if you were in, I assume you were not in sheltered classes if you finished the program when you were in middle school. Fadi, were you in sheltered classes in high school?
I was not as well.
Okay. So some students, if students come in high school, or if they still need the support in high school, then all of their main classes are with other English language learners. So I think that the goal for that is to address that kind of loneliness and isolation. I think when students are younger, the idea is that they will get that time when they're pulled out to learn survival skills, basic skills that they can apply within their classroom. But that's a really good point. We do have within the district that was implemented, I believe, right around the time that COVID started, community meeting, which is supposed to foster those relationships within classrooms. And so I think if teachers are really intentional during that time and plan activities to ensure that their English language learners are included within the classroom and able to contribute to the conversation, however, in whatever mode that might be, I think doing that and building those foundational relationships are really important.
Yeah.
I would add that having my pullout with my students is very important for that reason, because it is a safe space. And in addition to being a teacher, I also view myself as an advocate. And students do share their concerns, their challenges, how they're feeling with other students, and, often allow me to make subtle or the type of intervention they would like me to make without making them feel on the spot, or giving them supports that they need with their teachers, or how I can make an introduction to another student, might be in another class, but they speak the same language from the same country. And I want to introduce you to that person so you're not feeling that you're the only person with that cultural background. So that's where I get a lot of information from to support students.
Great. Yes. But we have a question here from Leslie. She asked, are ESL students graded in the same way as native speakers?
So they are graded using the same grading system, but there are considerations and collaboration that happens between the EL teachers and the content area teachers. So no student is going to get a lower grade because of their English language proficiency. So if a teacher wants to give a student a certain grade, it's important that not only has the teacher been reaching out to the student's parent and EL teacher, if that applies, throughout the semester to see if they could help them, but that it's not because it's determined that the grade that they want to give is not because of English language proficiency, but because of other factors. So that is something that is taken into consideration. And Sondra, I don't know if you want to talk about your direct experience with that.
Well, I mean, Holly, I just think you hit the ball out the ballpark. I mean, that's exactly it. And absolutely collaborating with your ESL teacher to make sure during the semester that you're really giving all of the supports that you can as a student. Maybe there are things you never thought of, and you're just really very frustrated. But, so I really try to reach out to my teachers to make sure, I mean, have you tried this? Have you tried that? To make sure that you've done all that you can before you want to fail a student that's like a newcomer to the United States, which I don't understand. So
All right, great. I have another question. This is for the teachers, the school staff as well. What strategies have you incorporated in your classroom that you felt most impactful in improving the EL students' learning? Where you saw a change, where you could see a difference?
Can I answer that?
Yes. Hi there.
Hi. I think the strategy that I've been using lately that's really working is giving them opportunities to speak. So I've been doing like mini Socratic seminars on different topics that are related to current events or related to the books that we're reading. And then they study for about a week and prepare for their discussion. And then they have these little discussions in the center of the classroom where everyone is listening to them. And then we ask questions to them. And my ESOL students are levels like high 2s, level 3. And I think it's really giving them confidence to show that they can be an expert on a topic and their opinion is valued. And when they're preparing, I want to add that they're using their own language, to become experts. They're translanguaging during the preparation period. So I think as much opportunity as possible to show what they know and just show that they can be experts in whatever topic they're studying, and we value their opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask, do you remember times where, and I'm sure this is the case, where you see the native speakers learning from the EL speakers, EL students, their insights and what they have to offer, like, in the K through 12 classroom, like, how do you see how the other students respond in a positive way to the EL students?
That's interesting because that actually came up recently with student teachers who feel that when students talk on topics that come up in the classroom, that we have to be careful not to tokenize our students either, and to make them not, okay, like you're the spokesperson for all people from, whatever country that they're talking about. So I make sure that I talk to them before, just the two of us, somewhere away from the class, where I asked them, is it okay if the class asks you questions about, if we're reading, we're actually reading the Kite Runner right now. So we have some students from Pakistan in the room. So I just want to make sure that the students are comfortable speaking out on their practices, their religious practices, their language, before we call them out in front of the class to speak on the topic, so just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We have a question here from Val, and this question's for all the panelists. Thank you for this, Val. If it were possible, do you think a model in which all EL newcomers are in sheltered content classes for their first year in the US from grades K through 12, would this be helpful? Or do you feel that sheltered content classes for ELs are really only necessary for high school newcomers?
I can speak on my experience. Like I mentioned again, because I've moved so many times already, I feel like, and I always will stand by this, I think learning a language, the best way is to learn it while living there. So I don't think that they should be completely sheltered out during their first year, because sometimes it can, in my opinion, I think it might even hinder their learning, because they have like that comfortable pace, and so they might get like, they might not put in the full effort that they would have to in like a normal classroom. So I think what the model of the like pulling them out of the classroom is, I think it's really efficient in my experience.
That's great insight. Thank you for that, Alaha. About the other panelists who want to chime in on this. If you need me to repeat it, let me know.
No, I can add something. So having been a middle school teacher, I think that so we currently don't use the sheltered model in middle school at all, but it's something that actually I've been discussing with some teachers, including Brian, who is on the call, and one of the middle school teachers that I work with. I think it could be beneficial for middle school students. I would say elementary is probably okay the way that it is. I think because they're so young and they're soaking up so much knowledge still at that age, that sheltered classes wouldn't be necessary. But I think for certain students, and maybe not for a full year, maybe just for as long as it seems appropriate for that student, maybe it's just 6 months, maybe it's just 4 months. Some students come in and really, really excel. But I could see it being beneficial for middle school age students as well.
Yeah, could I just piggyback on that comment from Holly? One of my observations, just as a middle school ESOL teacher, is a lot of classroom content teachers are not equipped with ESOL skills. I know the school district expects teachers to provide scaffolds and all those types of supports for ELs. But from my observations, I have not seen a lot of it, to be frank. So kids who are at a low level, newcomer English students, really struggle in their content classes because they do not have those supports in their content classes. And I think those students who are maybe at a higher level, level 2 or above, they have the language, the English language at that point, so they're able to flourish and develop a lot more. But the low level students, the newcomers, they're the ones that I see struggling. So I do think having a sheltered program for the initial period, for whether it be 6 months or a year, like they have in high school, would be definitely beneficial to those students. So that's my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you. Holly, is there anything that you'd like to add? Or Sondra? Or...
Yeah, so no, I think I shared everything that I wanted to say, but Sondra, Fadi, maybe if they would like to.
I definitely agree. Sorry, Sondra. I definitely agree with Brian and Holly. And I also agree with Alaha. I think that there needs to be the pushing factor, which is what Alaha was talking about. And then, however, like needs to be some kind of a foundation to these students. So you can't just like throw them, or like these students that actually don't know anything. They have to, you have to create a foundation for them to be able to keep up and build on that. So yeah.
I just want to say I absolutely agree. And I think that's why when I come to get my students for the pullout, like they're like wanting to run out the classroom, like they can't wait to leave because they feel like, I guess, more heard, like they'll finally be able to understand the content or what's going on class, or just to get their questions answered. Because I have noticed a few students, doesn't always happen, they just get so frustrated that some of them actually have behavioral issues because they're so frustrated in class. So like to get the pull out, or like the sheltered instruction even for 6 months would be certainly reduce a lot of anxiety and tension in some newcomers. So I absolutely agree with everyone.
Can I just ask? Sorry, I just want to say thank you for this insight. This is like something I've been wanting to just ask directly to students and teachers for a while. Do you feel like it's important for, even if there is like a 4 to 6 months window for level 1 newcomers, to Brian's point about level 1 students, that it should be in like within a school, or that it should be its own, like its own building, its own school? Do you think that it's important for it to be within, a larger existing school?
I think it should be. I mean,
it's sorry,
Go ahead.
Holly, to cut you off.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, currently at a high school level, we have, my understanding, Holly, you're more of an expert on this, but there are 2 programs. There is the Newcomer English at
Newcomer Learning Academy.
thank you. And then up in the Northeast there is one, which is a newcomer program for level 1 students. There is currently no middle school or elementary school sheltered program or newcomer program. It would take a huge amount of resources. It depends on, does the school district have the resources to spend on these kinds of programs? From what I can see is ESOL is not a high priority right now, unfortunately. But it would take more money, I think, to have it in each school, because then you would need more teachers, more ESOL teachers, who would have to be experts, I suppose, in these content areas as well, or dual certified in the content classes. So it probably would be cheaper to have it, we'll say, for example, a middle school in each part of the city that would have a newcomer program, and kids would go to those programs. But that's just my bit about it. I don't know what you think, everybody else.
So yes, you're absolutely right, Brian. Right now we have 2 programs, one at Franklin Learning Center and one at Frankfurt High School. So they're kind of in 2 different geographic areas, but it still is a big issue for families who have recently arrived to a new country to send their student on a 2-hour public transportation ride to get there. So that is a big factor. And you're right, it would take a lot of resources, and we are not necessarily the priority, unfortunately. But I mean, ideally, I think having many more of these programs for middle school students as well would be really helpful. I do like the fact that they are located in schools, just so that they're still part of a school community. They're not so segregated, like this is your building, no one else goes to this building. You're still part of the school community. You could still have lunch or other classes potentially with students who are not in the Newcomer Learning Academy. So I think that's important.
Okay, great. Thank you for this discussion. Let's go to Leslie's question. Leslie asked, in some states, they have SLIFE, S-L-I-F-E, SLIFE classes. What do you think about this group? Do you think there may be a special need for this subpopulation, which is students with limited or interrupted formal education?
I absolutely think so. Right now, I work out of the Office of Multilingual Curriculum and Programs within the district. And right now we are collecting data on the number of SLIFE students that we have within the district. And then the goal is to create something for them in high school. I know there are classes specified that are suggested for SLIFE students to take, but again, in middle and elementary, we really don't have that. And I think that would be something that is really helpful. These are students who are coming in and maybe have never been to school before and they're 12 years old. And so some kind of targeted program I absolutely think is necessary. And we are on track to help these students. We're just in the beginning phase of data collection right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Holly. Another question for the panel. Aside from the stated pros and cons of both sheltered and integrated classes as noted, what are some unexpected or less obvious results, good or bad, that you have personally experienced as educators and former EL students? Anyone want to chime in? No?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. Aside from the pros and cons we've been talking about, or that were in for the integrated classes and sheltered classes, what are some of the unexpected or less obvious results, good or bad, that you have personally experienced as educators or EL students? Like something else has come out of it that was very unexpected.
Rosanna, can you give us an example?
Yeah, like I'm just trying to see, like it may have not have been positive or negative, this may be geared more toward the students as well, but maybe on something that has happened that may have stayed with you later on in life that you may feel like this has been part of my experience as an EL student. Like I'm thinking of the students primarily as well in this, like anything that has come out of that experience as an EL student, for example.
Do you mean like relationships with teachers?
Yeah, it could be either with their teachers, with others in social settings, like anything that has come out of it that may have been good or bad, or that has stayed with them because of that experience they had.
I think just the teacher, like my main homeroom teacher, I guess, she, I think, always like took the time out and just kind of gave me that little extra attention, which I really appreciated because that it was during my like first year here. And so not only did I have the support from my ESL teacher, but without kind of like making me stand out and like the center of attention, she kind of gave me extra support without making me feel, because I feel like sometimes when teachers give a student too much attention, it can make them kind of a center for like it can make them like a, I don't know, like a target for bullying, because other students may get, or like just might feel some type of way, but she did it in a really nice casual way where I didn't feel any resentment from my other classmates, but also I felt support from the teacher, just kind of like giving me affirmations about how the work I would submit was good enough for her standards, and I was like doing things correctly. So I think that kind of stayed with me, and I still remember her face.
Your description is as if it were yesterday. That's remarkable that stayed with you. That's great. Fadi, how about you? Anything similar where something still stays with you from your experience when you were a student that you recall?
I
Or
mean, it's not as good as Alaha's, but I mean, it's not like I created a relationship or any kind of but learning English or the foundation that was set for me to learn English was also a foundation that I learned a different language while I was learning English. So yeah, and I mean, the other languages that I learned, I didn't really learn it through an educational setting. Rather, it was like completely, I was just thrown into that setting and I learned it that way. So it was not like, here, this is a homework, do this assignment and stuff like that. It was just like me talking to people through that language.
I would add something unexpected and wonderful for me is as much as I enjoy teaching my students English, unexpectedly and joyfully, how much they enjoy teaching me about their cultures in really wonderful ways. Even families preparing Ukrainian borscht for me, and just all kinds of wonderful gifts like that, and teaching me their language and who their favorite rappers are in Russia and all kinds of things. So, like, just really making those relationships, it's been just beautiful. It's been really beautiful.
I love that. That's great. Anyone else? Teachers, staff?
I would like to say that, hi. I would like to say that, in general, I love to see where the students come in at the beginning of the year and where they end up at the end. It always amazes me how far they've come and are willing to do. For example, doing presentations. Sometimes they won't talk that much in class. Then they'll get up and present. I'm like, and I try not to be like overly excited, but sometimes I'm like, yes. I'm like, oh my God, you already talked. And then get up and present. And I'm like, you did such an amazing job. And I have like the hand clapper thing. So it was like they really amazed me how far that they've come. Some of them are really shy in the beginning and won't present. And then the next presentation cycle, they'll present. So just the growth. I teach EL shelter classes at Northeast. Hello, my fellow Northeast student. And it's just amazing to see even the social aspect there to themselves, and then they start, getting more social, and it's just creating those experiences where they can turn and talk and be social, and putting them in different groups, and have the language groups and the groups that aren't just their language, and just creating those experiences for them to try something new, and encouraging them when they do something right. It may not be what everyone else is doing, but just seeing those incremental growth challenges for them, it just amazes me, and it just makes me excited every single year. Judge them on their growth, not so much what everyone can do, but you just have to have that balance and be willing to do that.
Wow, that's great. I love that. I love that insight. And they're going to be like Alaha and Fadi. They'll remember it years later, these experiences. So, anyone else want to talk about something unexpected that happened to them in a positive way, good, negative way? But I like hearing the positive. These are great stories we're hearing so far. Any other teachers or staff?
My students took the STAR test this week and they did really well. And like Teresa was just talking about their progress, I was so excited about because we go over their growth on their STAR. I know it's a standardized test and it's data and it's boring and stuff, but they have to do it. So just looking at their growth on the STAR made me really excited. So it reminded me of what Teresa was talking about. I was like way more excited than they were about their growth. I'm like, look at this. You went up 200 points. It's really exciting to see at this point in the year, kids who've been with us in September, that maybe they're not on grade level, but they're just like progressing so much every day.
Wow. Okay, so is there anything else that the panelists wants to share about their experiences, or I appreciate everyone sharing, but any comments or anything that you want us to know that we may not know that you experience on a daily basis, either the students, teachers, staff, anything?
I want to add something a little bit, I guess, unrelated to school settings, but I come today as like a representative of AOP Solo, which is the first organization for Afghans in Philadelphia. It was created in 2021 after the fall of the previous government, and we've been focusing on helping women and children who came during Operation Allies Welcome, if you guys are familiar with it. And they're pretty much just people who were who immigrated between like 2021 when the Taliban took over, and then I don't remember the exact ending date, but I think my experience has helped me with just being passionate about that, and it's a really exciting project and something that's so unique because it didn't exist, and I think it didn't exist because there wasn't a huge Afghan population in Philadelphia, but now every day there's so many immigrants coming into Philadelphia, and I think that also translates well into the school setting because personally, like I mentioned, I was the only ESL student in my class, and probably there's like 5 or 6 of us in the whole school. But now there's such a big community of immigrants in schools at every grade level from many different countries. You're bound to have someone who speaks or maybe shares a part of your culture, and I think that adds on to the comfort level of those new coming students, which then allows them to be able to share their culture and connect with their teachers, which I think translates well to the overall result of them doing better in school. So I think I just wanted to mention that every day there's improvements. I can see it from like when I first started school and when I first came here to now. I think students feel even more comfortable. Just they don't feel as alone because there's a bigger population of people who are in the same situation as them. And I just wanted to give that statement.
And that's some statement. I think that is incredible, remarkable. Thank you for that, Alaha. Wow, you're making a huge difference. Well, I think on that note, we could start wrapping things up. Is there anyone else wants to add any comments, share your thoughts on what this panel discussion has, made you think more about? Or Fadi, would you like to say any closing words about your experience or how you feel impacted today by everything, or,
Yes, sure. I think that coming to this country while not knowing anything was one of the greatest challenges of my life. And the systems that were in place and now much more improved are those that have helped me thrive throughout my life here. And I think that the students who are incoming or that are with zero knowledge of English are those that are very prone to judgments from outside and the students around them. So the safe space that was created at these schools is the greatest thing for them. So yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to say that none of this progression would have happened without all of the amazing teachers that are joining us here today and maybe weren't able to join, because I can just see the passion, you guys taking the time out of your Saturday morning to be here and get to hear our perspectives and then take that on to the classroom. And just the support that you guys give each and every student is really appreciated. And I just wanted to give a thank you from my heart for all of you guys that are here today.
Wow. We're very grateful. Thank you for that, Alaha. Very touching.
I want to echo that. Working in so many different school settings, the teachers are really dedicated and amazing, and it's tough working in the district. I understand, and it really takes a lot for someone to give this much of themselves to the students. It's really wonderful.
Wow. Well, I found this discussion to be just so insightful, moving, and hearing it from all sides. Thank you to each one of our panelists, host students. I think we had a great conversation, so a special thanks to you all. And with that, we will end the session. Bill, is there anything you'd like to add? Or
Yes, so this will go up on YouTube, and so you'll be able to see this conversation again if you'd like, and share it with your colleagues. I'd also like to remind everyone to register for the conference that will be on May 4th at Temple University. Early bird registration is open now through April 21st, and you can register up to the date of the conference. It's a little bit more if you don't get that early bird pricing, but I hope to see everyone there and continue these types of discussions. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming out on a Saturday morning, and we hope that you'll be with us the entire Saturday on May 4th.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.